All right, welcome back. Today we are going to be tinting a full windshield on this Scion, aka Toyota FRS. And here on the table, I have everything that we're gonna need to do that. At least I hope, cross my fingers. All I did was pull this in. We still have a fair amount of dirt on it. We haven't put a dash towel in there. So we're gonna go over every tool that we're gonna need. And as we use them, we're going to take them off the table and show exactly how they are used. First, let's make sure that we are connected. AirPods Pro. All right. So I have a tint keg here. And first thing that we're going to need is some type of spray for the windshield. So figured we'd start with how much soap do we need to flip this? Mirror. There we go. That's more normal. Okay. So, how much soap do I need in a sprayer for window tint? I have my tint keg that was filled up from yesterday. So first thing we need to do is release all the air pressure. This is my pressure release, and then we can open up the top just like that, and we'll twist and pull this right out. Make sure the gasket stays on. Then we're gonna take all our water, we're gonna dump this out, and then we're gonna turn this on. In the summertime, I'll use cold water. In the wintertime, I'll use hot water. You can also use some type of bottle brush or a scrubby and get in here and make sure you get any slip solution that might have built up on the walls and the interior. You're gonna wanna rinse this out real quick. So, run that around. Give it a couple. 1, 2, and then we'll just let this fill up here. Love how that matches up. Okay, so I'm gonna fill my keg with 3 gallons of water or close to that. So that's gonna be approximately right about here is a nice medium. This is gonna get me through a full day. I'm gonna be doing like 4 or 5 full cars. So if you're not tinting that many cars, you don't necessarily need to put that much water. But your slip solution ratio, we're gonna be using tint slip. So for the soap that we're gonna add to the keg, we're gonna be using tint slip. We're gonna use 1 ounce per gallon. So if we fill this up with 3 gallons, we're gonna take 3 ounces of this. So I'm gonna loosen up this little cap, squeeze, and then this fills up 30 milliliters, 1 ounce. Measurements are on both sides of it, which makes it really convenient. Now, once this is full, up to where I need it, that's when I'm gonna add my slip, just so I don't have a bunch of bubbles that spill over. Where do you get the cabinets from? These are from New Age. These are their Pro Line series. So we're just waiting for this to fill up, and then we'll put our slip solution in here. Baby shampoo on top. I don't use baby shampoo anymore. I use strictly slip solution. You could use baby shampoo. It is a safe soap for window tint. It's just not made for window tint. So with some soaps, you might find that your tint just doesn't slide as well as some other ones, but it is an option that you could potentially use. Okay, so that looks pretty good. So we're gonna turn off the water. We got 1 ounce here. That just goes right in. Fill up. Another one. Fill up to 1 ounce there. And then fill that up. Then we're gonna take the top, put this back on. Lock that down. We're gonna give it just a little shake. And then loosen up our valve stem here. So we're gonna fill this up with up to 90 PSI. Anywhere between 65 to 90 is great. 90 is going to be on the high side of things, where you get a good pressure throughout the entire keg, but you want to leave a little room for air pressure. That's why we fill it up to right around this area there. I usually use that black line as a good medium. So once it stops hissing, we'll take that off, put our cover back on, and our slip solution is all ready to go. We're gonna put that over here. I have a little bit more of an elaborate setup. Quick disconnect, 1, quick disconnect, 2. And the nice thing about these quick disconnects is even with pressure, you can take these off and put them right back on, so you don't have to worry about blowing a valve or anything. But we have old soap in our hose. So one thing to remember after you fill up your keg is you are gonna wanna empty those lines with fresh soap. So if it's been sitting in there for a couple of days, all this soap that's sitting in this line, we need to run from the keg all the way through so we get brand new soap. Why didn't the fog machine go off? I don't know. It should have. But we're gonna let that run. And one thing we can do is we can actually just get started since we don't necessarily need it immediately. So we got a full windshield here that needs to be tinted in Pro Nano 70%. All I did was pull the car in. We have a fairly dirty windshield, so we're gonna go ahead and start with cleaning that. But here on my table, I have all the tools assembled, ready to go. So as we're going through the full windshield, we're gonna grab tools off of here, and I'm gonna explain exactly what they're used for. So first thing with cleaning a windshield for window tint, I'm gonna take my soapy water mix, and I'm gonna spray, just douse the outside of the windshield. Then we're gonna grab a scrub pad, a Libman squeegee, and a rag. I find these work best for just taking everything off the windshield within reason, but we're gonna give it a big scrub down. Glass cleans up fairly quickly. So Triad scrub pad does a really good job of just loosening up all the dirt. Libman squeegee does a great job of making sure your windshield is completely dry, streak-free. When I used towels to just wipe off a window, you'll leave little bits of grit behind. That can be a problem for when you're shrinking. If you have little pieces of dirt, then that could rip through your film when you're shrinking. The other thing is leaving little bits of dirt behind could leave micro impressions in the film as you're shrinking. And when we apply glass aid, we want this to be completely grease-free. But this gives us a good way to look at the windshield to see any type of stickers or things that might be stuck to the inside that we may have confused with the outside. So like all these smears right here, that's on the inside. There's a sticker up there. And so we're gonna wanna take care of all of that, really before we then cover up the outside. So again, Libman squeegee, rag, Triad scrub pad, completely clean the windshield. We're good to go on that. So next we're gonna move to the interior. So, one more tool. I forgot one more tool. Did you increase the minimum for the fog machines? I don't know. Let's see if they work real quick. Oh, I think YouTube wasn't connected. I think that's what our problem was. I'm sorry. All right, we're gonna do. Where is the thing? Commands. All right, we're gonna test. Does it work? No. No, it does not. Quit. We're gonna reopen this. Chat's working, but sometimes the fog machines don't work because technical difficulties. So we'll open this up really quick. But we're gonna cover up the dashboard as soon as this loads. YouTube connected, TikTok connected. Is it a test? Hey! Okay, so they are working a little too well. Lovely. Okay, there we go. So we're gonna cover up the dashboard first, which is one of the most important steps to tinting a windshield. There's a lot of electronics that you want to avoid. So here I have a dash towel. This is going to go over the entire width. And then I also have a soak rope. That is to absorb a lot of extra water. But these dash towels are super good. So if I don't have that much space to work with, and what I mean by that is when the dash presses really tight, so right in here, I don't have a lot of space. In the center, it's more okay. I can see this dot border. That's okay. But out towards the edges, really in this area right here, is where I don't have much space. A little bit of dash pushing up with whatever's underneath it. So we're gonna start though with our dash towel. And I'm just gonna kind of center it. And we're gonna take just a push stick, and I'm going to wedge it right here at the seams. So I almost hook that. And then I'm able to take that dash towel and wedge it pretty far down into the dashboard and just work this across until we get to that tight area, and that's where things will get a little bit sketchy, right? So you gotta think, we need to tuck film down here. So if I put too much pressure in there, then I'm not gonna be able to tuck my film. So these, the dash towels, you can get these at 313tint.com. But these are really dense towels, so they're naturally going to absorb a lot of water. So if you're shoving a towel all the way into your deck up here, it's collecting all the water that might run, that would have gone down. Some people just take a towel and they'll just throw it on the dash and not really absorb any water with it. So it'll collect it from like the speakers, but it's not doing a great job of keeping it from running down the inside of the dashboard there. So if you use these things properly, really a good towel is all you're gonna need. And then if I have added space, which I don't over there. So for an example, I'll show you guys on this side. I would do the rope in the same way, but I would only do the rope after I have the towel in here. So I would take that rope and I'm gonna press that down. And then the nice thing is that it actually holds the towel down just a little bit farther. See how it compresses it down compared to right over there? I have a little bit more room. But since here we have something that is protruding up, I have to make sure I compress my dash towel down even farther. What's the point of all this? We are tinting the windshield, and we're gonna be spraying soapy water all up on the windshield. That's gonna run down, and we don't want that to run down somewhere that's gonna destroy the car. If you call around to enough tint shops, you'll probably have a bunch of them that'll turn away some problem vehicles like Dodge Rams. I don't turn those away because I know how to cover those up. Yeah, I want to go a little bit harder on this one. Right in here. It's not a waterproof car. I don't want to check. It might be. We might be able to just drive this in a lake and it'll keep going. But I know there are cars that aren't. So I'm not going to find out with this one. Yeah, right here. Really, really tight right there. All right. Well, that's covered. So it also lets me see all along the bottom, so it's a lot easier to see what I'm cleaning. So in order to clean the inside of the windshield, we're going to take a 1-inch razor blade, open this up. There we go. We're going to take a 1-inch razor blade. We're going to take our soapy water, and we can also take a cleaning squeegee and just make sure the inside layer is clean. You can optionally use a scrub pad in this process as well. I prefer razor blades over scrub pads, and the main reason why I prefer that is because if there's stickers and sticky bits, a scrub pad is not necessarily going to clean those off. Where with a razor blade, you'll be able to feel and remove it if it's there. So let's give this a quick spray. And then we're going to start with our razor blade here. And just start at the top. Is it a stainless steel razor? No, it doesn't have to be a stainless steel razor. You can use any 1-inch razor blade. Because we're not cutting on the glass, we're just using it to scrape any dirt off of the surface of it. So as long as you hold it at a low angle, nice and flat, it'll do its job. If you were doing a full windshield tint and there was a visor strip, would you remove it? Yes. It's just gonna look better. I've done it for a couple customers that don't necessarily care or wanna pay to have it removed and then reapplied if they wanna have another visor strip on it. But if you just tint the full windshield over a visor strip, you're gonna see an air gap right where that visor strip or the full windshield overlaps the visor strip. Where do you order your tint from? 313tint.com. And then we're gonna optionally, you can take your knife, extend it fully, and then you can curve it against the glass and you can scrape down farther. So these lower areas are a lot harder to reach. So I'll do that. We're gonna take our cleaning squeegee and we're just gonna go over the windshield and try and knock off that dirt so it doesn't dry back to the windshield, and we'll go to the other side and do the same thing. Is there a completely clear ceramic tint? Yeah, we have as light as 70, which you wouldn't be able to tell is on the car unless somebody told you that it is. Anything 70 and up, you're not gonna see. What percent is this? We're gonna be putting 50% on this windshield. Okay, so grab our razor. And this side was especially dirty, so we've got this sticker here. So this is just a paper oil change sticker. There we go. We're gonna keep that aside for them. And then definitely make sure any adhesive, especially right here, you can see that, is then scraped away. And then scrape the rest of your windshield. Would the razor scratch the windshield? Not if you hold it at a nice flat angle to the glass. So I'm holding it with my fingertips here. You could also get a razor blade holder. I change razor blades so often that a lot of holders just became really annoying. So I like to just run my hand over it, and then I'll jump to my knife and get those lower sections. So this going to run down right like that. Is there anything that you can do about the built-in sun strips? So this is a factory tinted option, and some of them just come with it. You could potentially order a piece of glass without it, but if it comes with it, you can't take it out. You can only replace the windshield to get rid of it. They don't do that much on windshields anymore. It's kind of an old thing. There we go. We are fairly clean. We're gonna also take a towel, wipe around some of the edges. So when I squeegeed all this water, dirt collects here, and there can also be some dirt sitting on the pillar. Wipe that off. Same thing for the top, and just the sides and the tab. Anywhere dirt can collect, you wanna take something and just be really thorough about cleaning that off. Would you say rear or front window is harder to shrink? Typically, a windshield is gonna be harder to shrink because it pulls in, so it angles inwards more at the top, and then this is where you get the most amount of curve, where a back window isn't necessarily as tapered. So these are usually a little bit more squared, but you can still have really difficult back windows and front windshields. But front windshields are always gonna be harder because your customers are always staring through them. So you wanna make sure these are especially clean. So I'll take a little bit extra time with all these little steps to try and make sure that they're extra perfect. Got my windshield replaced at a dealer and it came with a blue strip. It bugs me. Could you lay like a 5% tinted and make it less noticeable? Yeah, putting a 5% strip over this factory strip, it would make it a little bit less noticeable, especially from the outside. On the inside, you'll still be able to tell it's there, but it's probably not gonna bug you near as much. Okay, so now that we have the inside cleaned, we're still gonna clean it before we go to install it, but we have all the major stuff taken care of. Now what we need to do is prep the outside, and we're gonna do that with a couple things. So first thing is I'm gonna line this around, and then we're gonna use a dryer sheet. So let's open this up. I'm using a product called Glass Aid. This is gonna give me a nice white border. Where's my edge? There it is. What window film are you used? We're using GeoShield Pro Nano Ceramic. Okay, so I'm gonna take this Glass Aid and we're gonna outline our entire windshield. The reason I like using this stuff so much is because it's a quick, easy way to not only see the border of the windshield, but my main reason for using it is when I cut out my pattern, I'm not cutting on the glass anymore. I'm cutting directly on this tape. I just use pinstripe tape, same thing really. It's not exactly the same. You can see this roll is so much thicker than what a pinstripe roll is. This is 10 mils thick, where pinstripe is anywhere from 3 to 4 mils. Pinstripe is made to be thin and just an accent line. So if you just want it for outlining your windshield so you can see it, then pinstriping is gonna work great. But if you wanna add a little extra protection when you're cutting, because if I damage this windshield with a little line that goes all around, I mean, the cost on that windshield alone is gonna outdo the $250 that I charged to tint it. What's the length of Glass Aid? These are 100-foot rolls. So you can get a little more than 10 full windshields out of it. And My knife is over on the table. Could you also use knifeless tape? No. Knifeless tape is completely different. You pull knifeless tape through vinyl because you're sticking the vinyl, and vinyl is really soft. So that surface is already adhered to the car, and then you pull the tape through it. This, if you were to try and pull knifeless tape, it's gonna rip your film right off the windshield, but your windshield is not stuck on the outside. We're gonna install it on the inside. So knifeless tape is just fundamentally different. Okay. So now we need to prep the windshield, and there's a handful of products and options out there. Soap bars, dry shrink prep. I still have to mess around with soap bars a little bit more, but I like Snuggle dryer sheets. I've been using them for a long time. We're going to mist our window, and we're gonna mist the dryer sheet. And we just wanna have a nice even layer. On the entire thing, and it basically puts down a wax that's just helpful to shrink on. And when we get into shrinking, you'll see exactly how helpful that is. But we need to let that dry first, which is sometimes why I'll prep the outside and then I'll go to clean the inside. But if we prep the outside, we can't necessarily see all the dirt that we're trying to remove. So if you clean the inside first and then put the dryer sheet on the outside, we can, it spends a little bit more time, but we're being a little bit more thorough doing it. Don't dryer sheets correlate to cancer? There's articles, they're not gonna be the best thing to just rub all over your hands, but hey. Only if you eat them. Yeah, no kidding. What car is that? This is a Toyota FRS. So this is just like the BRZ. He has tint on the rest of the car already, and then he came in specially to get the windshield done. He had this tinted 4 years ago, and he said he's not super happy with the way that the film has held up. So one thing to note, it's a little harder to see. There's already some bubbles that are starting to form on this back window, and the film is already showing a few different aging signs. So the scratch coat didn't hold up super well, and he's gonna end up getting this replaced soon enough. My windshield is 10% on the front and 5% all around. Nice. What do you do to clean the outside? So we already cleaned the outside, but we took a scrub pad. I especially like these tri-edge scrub pads. Use glass-safe scrub pads always. And then we used a Libman squeegee, and then we just used a towel. So we scrubbed the whole thing down, squeegeed it, and then that's how we got it nice and clean to do that. And then on the inside, we use 1-inch razor blades. I tried AutoZone tint, didn't go well at all. It's not surprising. Being AutoZone film, it doesn't necessarily give you any type of, doesn't mean it's gonna be easier or necessarily harder. Buying any window film is just gonna come with a certain type of learning curve, because window film is pretty rigid. So just learning how to tint, it's got some rules that you have to stick to, and if you don't, that's where you have a bad time. But it always takes time to learn those. Okay, so we're gonna open this up. This is a 50% windshield. I'm gonna put that aside. That's probably perfect for this. It was saved from another car, and then we changed films on it. All right, let me open this. Okay, so we have our roll of tint. This is Pro Nano 50%. This is a 2 mil ceramic film. So this is gonna block a lot of heat, but it also shrinks very easily. It's also gonna look very light. It honestly looks a little bit lighter on camera than it does in person. And then we're gonna unroll this across the windshield. This is a 36-inch tall roll, and a 36-inch roll is gonna be tall enough for most of any windshields that you do. Then we're gonna take our knife, and we're gonna trim this short, right like that. I thought you said 70% earlier. I hope I didn't, because we're definitely doing 50. Might have just been a slip up. But it's for real. Sometimes I do that. Sometimes I mention the wrong film. Okay, so we have a few things. So we have our glass aid. We have our dryer sheet underneath this. And we need to rough cut this film to size. So we can take a couple options here. One, we can just use a knife and trim it out. This is an NT red dot. This has a stainless steel blade. Or we can use a safety cutter. Also, we need some sort of card. So you can use a felt card, or you can use one of these tri-edge cards. You can even use a hard card. These are really nice because they have a double suede buffer. So this is kind of a combination of using a felt card or a hard card, nice in between. But we need to tack this in place first. So we're going to take our hand, go to the center, and then kind of just pull with your hand, flatten it out, and then just do a tack line right in the center. That way it's not shifting around when you're trying to trim your sides. Take a safety cutter. This is why I like these so much. It's just, it holds the film right off of the glass, and you can make your cuts just as quick as you could with a knife. But you're not damaging or risking damaging anything on the car. Where if you just take your knife and just trim right in the center, there's always a possibility that you're gonna create a score line anywhere around your window. And I'm speaking from experience. I've accidentally done it before. So always be a little extra careful, especially around the really expensive windows. One of the most expensive windows that I ever had to replace was a BRZ front door. Cost on that, replaced from the shop because they wanted OEM glass. This is when I was mobile, was $550. I didn't make $550 on the car. I was working for another company, so I was negative on that, just from a door window. So you want to make sure that your tint is basically short of any obstructions, and then that goes for the sides here. So just overlap the side a little bit, but don't leave the tint overlapping your pillars. And so we made a tack line right here in the center, and then we're gonna make a light tack line right across our glass aid tape on both sides. So that's directing all this loose film here up and down. So we can't shrink anything out the sides. For the top edge, it's okay to just have this go straight over as long as I don't have any obstruction sitting up here. So just having it run straight out the top is totally fine. If anything, it's a good thing because it gives us a little extra film to grab onto when we're shrinking. Does all tint have a protective film? Yes, all tint is gonna have, it's like a sticker. It's got a clear liner on the top and your tint layer and glue in the middle. Okay, so a couple of things that we need for shrinking. We already applied snuggle dryer sheet. We have our glass aid tape. We have the film on, ready to go. We can use a heat gun. You need a heat gun. You can't use just a hairdryer. You need something that gets hotter. This is a cheap Wagner heat gun. These are honestly awesome for the money. They're like 30 bucks from any hardware store. And then you just need a card. So I like either a softer felt card or a medium tri-edge shrinking card. This has a double suede buffer, so it gives you a little cushion, but it's got that card in there, which adds a little bit more stiffness to the card. So we'll use one on one side and one on the other. So turn the heat gun on high, let it warm up. You're gonna do 45-degree angle in the direction that you're shrinking. So this, we're gonna shrink outwards first. So we're gonna start in the middle, 45-degree pointed outwards. It's gonna be a little bit difficult to see with the 50%. It's just a really light film. No matter what, side bubbles pop up when I'm trying to shrink. Any tips? Yeah, you need to cut your film short of the sides, and you can't shrink out the sides at all. So when these fingers, like, you need to direct them outwards, like up and down. So it's real natural for your film to look like this. But if you just tack it in the center and then push these upwards, you've flattened out your film on the sides. So you're not gonna have that. You're taking all that bulk material that's loose and you have to shrink out the top and the bottom. So you wanna shrink your film until you have these little sideways air pockets. And this is our loose material past that. So we only shrunk up to here. So we're gonna take our card and we're gonna push this forward up to where it's shrunk. More heat. You're just waiting for those little ocean waves to develop. And then you're gonna push them into a shoreline. So imagine this is Houston, and then this is our hurricane waves, and we're going straight into it. So lines like that, push them up. And then it's just that, over and over and over. Coming straight into Michigan. It's just going up the US. We'll get our first hurricane up here, I swear. Here, let me get a little bit more extension cord here. Yeah, the dryer sheet is just for shrinking the film. Anything in between the film and the glass, like, there's other options. You can use a dry shrink prep. You could use a soap bar. I always just suggest, if you've never tried anything, try this first and then just see how that goes. See these little sideways lines? We're gonna push those up. Dryer sheets aren't needed for side windows? No. So we usually do a wet shrink on the side windows and then a dry shrink on the windshield or the back window. Reason is there's just not as much curve. So when you have a big window, dry shrinking is a way to shrink your windows much farther and a lot more even. You still could wet shrink, but very few people wet shrink compared to dry shrink. It's just, I think it's a bit of a smoother process. It's not that the other way is wrong. It's just much faster on doors because they're just not as big. Big windshield, dry shrink. So we'll put this back here. Is that the The voice I'm listening to said Wagner. The Wagner Furno. Yes, it is the Furno 300. This is the cheapest heat gun that I would recommend, and you can buy these anywhere. They're awesome heat guns. Heat guns they need to get really, really hot. So more expensive ones generally just have more features that tinters don't use. So turn your heat gun up all the way, and we control our heat with distance. So I can hold my hand here for a long time, but if I put it close, I'm gonna burn my hand. But I can move a lot of heat closer if I'm just going back and forth. So it's just turn your heat guns up all the way and focus on your distance and your time. But you're waiting for the film to react and to pull sideways. So if I just put some heat on it and take my hard card and just press it down, I think that I've shrunk the film when I really haven't. You always have to wait to see the film flatten out, and then you can smooth it. So this part just takes a little while to learn because you're not sure what you're looking for until you get used to looking at it. There's always little patterns and tension lines that start to form. And when you get used to looking for that stuff, shrinking clicks really fast. And that's where you can shrink a windshield in under a couple minutes versus like half an hour of frustration and throwing shit against the wall. But heat guns are what does the work. Your cards or a glove, these are just used for organizing the film. Well, the streaks from the dryer sheet go away. So the dryer sheet just wipes off. So there isn't anything that's left behind. It's just, you're gonna see a little residue that you have to clean up, that's it. So we're shrinking it. So all these that you can see right now, we're gonna clean that off. Steps. It doesn't all come at once. So we're shrinking the film on the outside, and then we're gonna install it on the inside. Crazy concept, I know. But the reason we shrink window tint on the outside is because we have space to do that. It would be impossible with everything that's in the way, with the curve, to try and do any of this on the inside. Window tint is a giant sticker. So whenever you scroll past a video and you see a window tinter seemingly applying tint to the outside of the car, just be patient and wait. They're gonna put it on the inside. They just have to prep it and shrink it and clean the inside of the window before they install it on the window. All right, last little bit. Here we go. All shrunk, and now we're gonna take our knife and then we're gonna trim it out. So first, take your knife, snap off a blade, and then I'm gonna extend my blade out about that far, just farther, so I can get a nice low angle when I'm cutting. And I'm gonna cut right in the center of my tape line. So I put the tape line right on the outside of the dots. So as long as I'm cutting on my tape line, my pattern's going to be a little wider than my border, which is perfect. So it's going to fit. Tear away. Tear away. Do you always leave that much film at the top? When I can, but it depends on how my roof line. If my roof line is kind of flat and doesn't really have any obstructions that poke out from it, you can leave it as long on the top and the bottom as you want. It's nice to have extra film that you could pull on that's gonna flatten out, because in these top corners especially, you're gonna have these peaks and valleys, and so when you flatten out the film, it just gives you a nice even space to shrink, a nice even amount of like surface area, where if you apply all that heat directly to like one of those peaks, the top part's getting a lot of heat and the bottom parts aren't, so you're way more likely to burn the film if you're shrinking it unevenly. So we're gonna cut right in the middle of the tape line, but it's on the outside of the dot border, so anywhere that I cut on this tape line should be okay. But on some cars, we're just not gonna have a lot of space on the interior, so always check the inside of the window and see how much room or how much margin you have on your window, and then that's gonna kind of dictate how wide your pattern can be. You don't need to make it any wider than the dot border. Okay, so now that this has been trimmed, we're gonna remove our tape line. And then this is just gonna pull off. So this is why I really like this tape. Cut on the tape, don't cut on the glass, and then that removes all clean in one piece. And I know I didn't score my window at all. Are there any differences if the glass is out of the car? The process is gonna be the same, but if you're gonna have somebody hold your windshield vertically, installation is gonna be a lot easier because you don't have to worry about any obstructions. But everything's gonna stay the same. Did you cut on the glass aid tape? Yes, I cut directly on the tape. We're still gonna apply the tint. We're just getting it all shaped and molded to fit the glass, and then we're gonna install it. How much is your heat gun? Like 30 bucks? They used to be like 20 pre-inflation. I have a few different more expensive heat guns. They're not significantly better. They're definitely nicer, but like I've bought up to a $300 heat gun, and it's cool. But with a heat gun, you're pulling what? If this is a 15 amp circuit, you're pulling up to 1500 watts before you blow a breaker. So more expensive heat guns don't necessarily equal more heat. They have features. We just want a heat gun to get really hot. So if you're spending upwards of up to 100 bucks, just get either one of these, the Wagners, or get a Craftsman heat gun. It's like 50 bucks. How does Geo compare to Expel? I get asked about brands a lot. Geo will go toe-to-toe with any brand. There's reasons why I like them as a whole much better. We gotta cut out the tab too. We can either do that on the outside or the inside. On this one, I'm just gonna do it on the outside. It's just gonna be easier. So I have a light, and see this border right here? I'm just gonna cut right on the outside. Got mine at Harbor Freight for $30. Harbor Freight heat guns are pretty good too. There's a lot of different heat guns, like hundreds of brands of heat guns. The Wagners are just a really good option that you can find basically anywhere. So Walmart, go to the painting section, Home Depot painting section. No tape line for the tab. Yeah, so that's always a risk. A really small risk, but if we're gonna cut on the glass, we're gonna take a stainless steel blade, make sure our edge is nice and sharp. When I'm doing really fine detail work, so I don't have a lot of margin on that tab. So I wanna get as close to the edge as possible. With Glass Aid, it's just gonna make it a little bit harder to do that. So there's certain situations where I just don't use it. What software do you use for cutouts? If I use a plotter, I use Core. Core's my favorite right now. Isn't it hard to cut the glass with a razor? We're not cutting the glass, we're cutting the tint. Okay, so we organize my table a little bit better. We're getting back into chaos mode. So we've used most of the stuff that's on this table. So for our cleaning and installation, I like both of these squeegees. The pink clean is for just cleaning and the first pass when we're installing. And then I use the hybrid for just a harder pass when we're installing the film. You could do everything with this hybrid blade, and it doesn't matter if you're using the orange side or the blue side. Both sides are great. The material of the squeegee is just next level. It's super good. And then the pink clean, by comparison, is just a really flexible, soft squeegee. So that's why this is more of a cleaning squeegee. Any advice on cutting out details of windshield? Like, what do you mean? Like cutting out a tab? If you're cutting out a tab or small details and stuff, stainless steel knife, and then always snap off your blade. So make sure you have a nice sharp point, right like that. And then extend your knife a little farther and use a nice low angle when you're cutting. So if let's pretend that this is my glass, and then this is our angle that we're cutting on. So if I'm doing this, I'm scoring my window. If I'm cutting like this, then we're using a little bit more blade, and it's gonna be a lot less pressure, and it's gonna cut a lot smoother. So see that little gap there? That's why I extend my knife, because if you only put out a little bit, that causes you to have to tilt your knife up. But if you extend your knife farther, then you can leave your knife lower and make that cut. Do you remove door panels to tint the car? No, and this is completely up to you. I learned to not remove everything. I didn't really know it was an option when I started. So I like to leave everything in place, but there's a lot more support for disassembling a door panel and removing that than there used to be. Okay. So now we are going to finish cleaning the inside. So we did an initial clean earlier, and that was to loosen up. Ooh, we need one more tool. Hang on, let me go grab that. Good chameleon window film. I don't know of any. Ultravision was like the only one that I knew of that lasted for more than a couple years. Everything else I saw, which wasn't necessarily a lot, seemed to fail. Okay, I'm gonna put a camera on here too. How many knives do you consume in a day? I eat about a blade per car because I get hungry. You just snack on it while you go. Okay, so lower squeegees. Bulldozer is not really going to be that helpful, but I guess we'll just bring all three of these. These are my favorite windshield and back window squeegees for reaching into lower sections. I haven't found a car yet that any one of these hasn't been able to finish. So we'll set these here, and then we'll clean it. Are you using camera glasses? No, but I do have a camera on my glasses right now. But that's for a separate video from what we're streaming with. Can you use one squeegee for the entire car? Yep. If you're gonna use one squeegee for the car, I suggest using this one here. This is called the hybrid. For the longest time, I just started using these pink cleans more recently. And I'll explain when we're installing why I really, really like them. Okay, so we're gonna spray our windshield. We cleaned it once before, so we scraped all the dirt off of it, but dust and small little bits could still have settled on it, and maybe we weren't as thorough as what we would have liked. And another thing that you can do is take your hand and run it over the glass. So sometimes it's hard to see every micro little sticky bit that might be on your window. So if you take your hand, you can feel if there was anything major that you might have missed. So we're gonna take our pink clean squeegee. We're gonna start on the top here. Squeegee. And we're gonna go right around our tab. And we're just gonna keep going right across the windshield until we get as low as we can, until the back of this handle is gonna start hitting the dashboard. So then I'm going to switch in the other direction and go in more of a front angle. And then we've got this. So this is a side swipe. This is how I can also reach much farther down. So this, make that swipe a lot lower. How do you work around rear view mirrors that have sensors built in? Most of the windshields that I do have them now. And it's like required on everything. Every new vehicle is gonna have one. So a lot of them have a housing and a nice dot border. So I'm just gonna cut around that dot border. Where this dot border I can see right through. So I'm just gonna cut around the tab. And so all up here is still gonna be tinted. Where do I get that squeegee? 313tint.com. Is this a chameleon windshield? No, this is a 50% ceramic that's primarily used for windshields. What brand dryer sheets do you use? If I use any dryer sheets, I'm using Snuggle. There used to be a couple more, like Bounce. Bounce worked really well. Part of it is the film. So dryer sheets aren't made for window tinting. If you want to get something that's made for window tinting, get dry shrink prep. Then you know it's going to have a consistent formula to it. Dryer sheets can change, and they do. So for the time being, Snuggle. Okay, so this is all set, ready to install. Okay, so this windshield's all set, ready to install. We're gonna do a process called reverse rolling, which is rolling up our entire windshield tint like a poster, and then we're gonna unroll it on the inside. So the tint has been shrunk and molded to fit the glass. We're gonna wipe off the outside. We're gonna start with peeling this top corner. And I'm gonna pull at an angle till we're about halfway across our windshield. And then we're gonna pick up this lower corner and pick this up as well. That way, this goes nice and even. Thank you for that. Nice and even across our windshield. We're loosening up the liner and setting it right back down. And we're going to do that on both sides. Oh, let me toss this back in here.
Biggest order I've ever filled.
What was that?
Biggest order I've ever filled.
Wow.
$680 all tools.
Nice. Okay, so we're going to wipe this side off as well, and we're going to mirror exactly what we did on that side. So we're going to peel this corner and get sprayed with fog. Thank you. We're going to pull this at an angle and just go partway across our windshield. Pick this side up. Make sure we get some nice fog juice in there. It's sabotage. And then we're going to put this right back down the way that we picked it up. So we need to roll this windshield up like a poster. So I'm going to start with the lower corner here and just start rolling it up. You want to try and keep your roll as tight as you possibly can. So you can always compress it with your fingertips and just back it up a little bit. So you roll it up, back it up, compress it, and that'll cause the roll to tighten. And so once that's nice and tight, we're going to go across the entire windshield. Take that off the windshield. Continue to roll up your tints just all the way. What percent? We're doing 50% ceramic on the full windshield. Thanks for the gifts, by the way. That was funny. That worked out really well. Okay, so once you get to this point, nice. Okay, so once you have your tint roll rolled all the way up, we're going to peel it. So the liner has already been loosened. So we want to grab that liner and stick it to the roll and continue to unroll it. But now when we unroll it, the liner is rolling to the back side. And so we just have exposed window tint. I'm going to spray this edge. I'm going to carry my sprayer along with my tint inside the car. So this has been sitting just for a sec, so I'm just going to mist our windshield. And then we're going to start with this far lower corner. I'm going to try and put this up as close to where I'm going to install it as possible. But to keep it from falling off of the windshield, get this left side completely tacked onto the windshield first. And once you do that, you're anchoring it on the window, and then you can continue to unroll your film. See how this is unrolling nice and smooth, basically right in place exactly where it needs to go. That center cutout, I'm matching that up. And then when I get about halfway across, I'm gonna peel my liner. So this is what's been unrolling to the backside as we've been rolling it. Then we're gonna use that liner and we can actually pull more from like the lower portion of it and just use this to help unroll the film across the windshield. Once you get about 3/4 of the way, your liner has the potential of bumping into the pillar. So to keep your tint from creasing, and getting a bunch of dirt in the side, let your tint drop away and just pull this liner straight out. Then you can mist your windshield, mist your film, and then push this onto your windshield. And then you should have enough soap and slip so you can still slide this around a little bit, and you're just gonna make sure all your edges are matched up. And one thing that worried me from the very beginning was the way that that pinched in there, where I have space everywhere else on this windshield. So just for kicks and giggles, I'm going to pull this towel out in that lower corner and just kind of shimmy it over to a section where I have more space. That way, I just have as much space as I can possibly need. My towel has done exactly what it's needed to do up to this point. We still have a little bit of water to squeegee out, so I'm just gonna be careful. We could overlap the dash, but I'm not gonna saturate anything. All our cleaning and stuff already happened. Okay, so now this is where I go back to my pink clean squeegee. I'm gonna start squeegeeing it out in the center. Go around this tab. And what I really like about the squeegee is that it's basically like brushing your bubbles forward and out of the window without applying a lot of pressure. So if we put too much pressure before the film is anchored, and you could potentially shift your film out of place and end up with a little gap over here, and then it's long over on the other side. So I really like this for just evenly spreading out the film and starting to push out and tack down my film without necessarily getting rid of a ton of water or disturbing my film. And then once it's basically tacked on the windshield, we're gonna grab a harder squeegee and then just more pressure, more direct strokes. This is the hybrid. You can use the hybrid for everything. And if you go back in a lot of my live streams and videos, I was using this for absolutely everything. It's an awesome squeegee. You can clean and you can install with just one squeegee. I started using this more because there were certain situations, like if I'm doing a Tesla door window, there's a lot of curve in that door window, and those fingers are gonna be really, really big, even before you start smoothing out the film. So this was a way to brush everything without necessarily disturbing placement of the film. And then we're gonna use a side swipe and get these bottom bubbles and fingers. I'm gonna jump to the other side of the car. And then, so once this is all squeegeed out, I'm gonna clean off the outside and check it over. Oh, I think TikTok stops about every hour. So TikTok unfortunately ended. But that's why we got YouTube. YouTube works too. Brand of tint that you're using. I'm using GeoShield. This is their Pro Nano ceramic. Oh, that would have been bad. Where's my side swipe? We want to go. So what just happened there? Press, squeegee compressed, and almost pulled my film back. There we go. Yeah, that's still really compressed down there. So I'm gonna take this. This is gonna sneak in there a little bit better. Perfect. All right, last thing we're gonna do before we start our touch-ups is we need to check our windshield over. So douse the outside, and we're gonna scrub away all the dryer sheet. Welcome back, TikTok. Grab our scrub pad, grab our Libman, grab a little towel. So the same way that we clean the windshield initially, we're going to use it to loosen up all that dryer sheet. And then with every pass that I'm doing, I'm looking at this section of the windshield. So then I can almost be sure I don't miss anything. I'm using a tri-edge scrub pad. This is called the Scrub It. What's really nice is these pads are replaceable, and they just Velcro onto this backing plate. The backing plate's really nice because it gives you a nice, even pressure. This is one of Tri-Edge's silly inventions that I didn't think really mattered until I started using it. I love these things. I use them all the time. Where if you just take a scrub, like a scrub pad, wherever you're putting pressure on the scrub pad is those little sections are getting more pressure. And so you just might not be scrubbing as thoroughly as you think. Where this backing plate just gives you a lot more even pressure. So, like I said, it's a silly invention that I love these things. I use Pronano from Geo, love it. Doesn't it scratch the glass? No. So whenever you're using scrub pads, there are scrub pads that will scratch glass. Those are generally your Scotch-Brites that you can buy in a local store. The green ones, the more aggressive ones, those are gonna scratch the glass, don't use those. But they even have blue non-scratch pads. Those genuinely work and they're not gonna scratch your windows. So if you need something locally, you can just go buy those pads. But I like this system a little bit better. Okay, so I don't see anything other than my cutout around the tab, so we're gonna address that. Everything else looks like it's turned out fantastic. The 50% is wicked clear, isn't it? It's especially gonna look light right now. We'll pull this car outside and I'll show you what this looks like outside of the shop. Things tend to look a little bit lighter in here, especially when you have a white dash towel there. But you'll see, once we get it outside, it'll darken up a little bit. It's just we have really bright lighting in here. Okay, so big fingers right along our tab. Whenever I'm cutting along the tab, sometimes if some of your shrink is here, then that's where you're especially gonna see some of these fingers popping up. But they're a pretty easy fix. You wanna just try and sweep all the water that's collected out and then see if there's any small fingers that pop up. One thing I'll do is I'll also take a heat gun and I'll hold it a little farther away and get that heat gun to warm up this area. So there's a little finger right there. Thank you. Oh my God, it's on fire. And then when we use it like a heat gun or like a hair dryer, we're drying the film out. So the tint's gonna lock down in place much faster. Because the only thing that keeps the film popping back up is really that moisture that sits in here. So anywhere along your edges, you can experience the same thing. If you see any little fingers that pop up, small ones are okay. You can touch those up. Anything along the edges that's small, you can generally just touch that up. So this looks really good. Take this down, remove our towel, and then I'm gonna take this and let's go over our windshield. Is there no glue? Well, the window tint is a giant sticker, so there is glue. It's just we apply it to the inside of the windshield, and then that soapy water is sitting in there for a little bit, so it lets you maneuver and squeegee out all your bubbles, and then the film will dry out, and all that moisture will evaporate and leave just the glue behind. So the glue doesn't get washed away or anything. The glue is always there. The slip solution helps move our tint around so we can apply it, and then everything's gonna tack up nice. Ooh, I see a thing. I see a longer hair right on my edge here. Let me get that again. Oops. Let me start. Okay, so I see a longer hair right there. I see longer hairs kind of in here. So not that surprising that there's something there. But if there is something there, we want to be able to identify it very quickly. Because if this is sitting for more than 5 or 10 minutes, it's going to completely dry. So we're going to peel it back, and we're going to brush that hair straight out of the tint. Kind of like ball it up with your fingertips and pull it out. So you can touch up some small things. Honestly, as long as the hair is really big, that's kind of a better thing for me, because then it's easy to feel, it's easy to brush out. But it's right along the edge, and that was actually really easy to clean out. It's completely gone, and I didn't drag a bunch of dirt back into it. But if your hairs are more here in the center, then you have to drag so much more film back, especially if they're in like a lower section, like way down in this area. It's gonna be a lot harder the more film, and the harder it is to reach in those areas. So on this one, I got a little lucky. You never wanna see something like that, but if you do see a small hair, a big hair, hairs can generally be removed. You just gotta be really careful. You just gotta be really, really careful pulling the film back. But that's also why some of these things like extra cleaning steps really matters. We wipe those edges. So if we left these edges really dirty, when we pulled our film back, that's gonna drag in a bunch of dirt. What do you charge for a full car wrap? So if we're talking window tint, because I don't do vinyl wraps, if we were to do this one all around in a dyed film, it would be $450 in carbon, it would be $550 in ceramic, which is what we just did on just the windshield. All the way around, it's like if we did the whole car, it would be $700. But we just tinted only the windshield today in 50% Pro Nano, and that's $250. I would have ripped it off and redone. You don't necessarily have to. It's not super... I waste a perfectly good film for just a piece of hair. It happens, and I've done it. And it just depends on your result. So if I look at that, and the hair, all of a sudden I dragged in a bunch of dirt, well then that's no good, because it looks just as bad as it did before. That's getting ripped off, and then we're gonna start again from the beginning. That's one reason tint can be so frustrating. But like I said, I got really lucky with this one. It was right there near the side, and a really easy touch-up. Expensive. Yeah, it unfortunately does. I've redone windshields 2, 3, 4 times. Like I've been there. It's not fun. But that just is a good illustration too, because you can do a lot to prep and try and make sure everything turns out perfect, and then you still have something. So as long as that something is within reason, then you're generally going to be okay. So the way that I kind of figure that out is one with just, you only have so much time in a day to tint a car. And if you just did it to the best of your ability at the time, then see how the customer likes it. Don't just point out imperfections to people. Deliver the car, see how they like it, and know that if you're kind of a picky person, you're gonna see way more than any customer is going to. Like, here. Let me roll up the doors. Like, we can get so focused on one, like something that we're doing, and we want to make it look as good as we can. These are the windows that were already done before. And so we have, those gaps aren't great. And the film's a little bit weathered. And then you also have other stuff like, I bet this paint film looked really, really good on day one. But this paint film has seen better days and is gonna have to be removed. This stuff has just like completely failed. And it's likely due to cheap film. So don't beat yourself up too much. If you have a small imperfection or two. Because it'll happen for, small imperfections are gonna happen for everybody. What's the best way to remove film if you change your mind in 2 years? Take a steamer. So, are you the same guy doing PPF? No. Oh. Car supplies where? Yes, that was me. I know all about paint protection film. It's nice to have you guys here. So if you're gonna remove window film, I have a steamer. You want a steamer that's got a hose to it, so that way you can shove it in a back window. But that's gonna be the best way. Look at this dingle dangle. Ooh, that would have been bad. Good method of removing ancient tint that just rips and cracks. When you have really old tint, it's difficult. Sometimes you just have to scrape it, and that's not fun. I've never really gotten the trash bag method to work very well, but the idea there is you want to be able to kind of soak that film in like some hot, steamy moisture. And then that's going to give you the best chance at removing any film. But thin, cheap film is going to crack and bubble and fail like that, and then it becomes much more time-consuming and expensive to remove, which a lot of people generally just don't know. So, like this film. I don't know how much he spent on getting this car tinted initially, but he's had it on here for 4 years, and he's gonna have to get it removed. And the price of removal is gonna be close to probably the price of getting it tinted in the first place. And then on top of it, you have to pay for another film. So you have a choice. You could either pay to have it done with another cheaper film and have the same problem in a few years, or get a nicer film, and then you're not going to have that issue. Part of going with a nicer film and a better company is just overall support. So let's say even the film I installed failed. We're going to replace it. Do you tint Corvettes? I've had 3 shops decline to tint my Corvette due to the concave hatch. What year Corvette is it? I've done pretty much all the Corvettes. I don't like doing the really old ones. I have done them, but I don't really like doing them. Oh, and by the way, if Car Supplies Warehouse is still here, that reminds me. You left your light behind? We got to ship this back to you guys. Do you wrap too? No. I specialize in window tinting. Car Supplies Warehouse actually came out here. There's some paint protection film videos on the channel now. They taught me how to do paint protection film. I still need to do quite a bit of practice, but I'm a lot more confident than I was. Where can I buy the film you use? You can buy it 313tint.com. Is this still recording? Oh, this is. This is my little camera. See, this is what I'm live streaming off of, right? I'm just kidding. We were shooting a YouTube video while we were doing this. So for anybody that wants to see a little better quality 16:9 video of installing this windshield, we're gonna have that up on the YouTube channel, just like we will the full recording of this live stream. Where can I buy the film that you use? Oh, I already answered that one. Do you have a dry ice machine? No, I have something cooler. I have a fog machine. So if I push this button right here, tint keg giveaway. I don't have a keg to give away right now. I'm sorry. I want one so bad, but can't afford it. I hear ya. You can definitely use trigger sprayers, and I used these for years. The Poly 2s were like my go-to sprayer. So like it gets annoying to do this all day, but these are really, really good sprayers overall. That's my car. Thanks so much. Looks amazing. Oh, hell yeah. I'm glad you got to see it. He said he found us from the YouTube channel, which is really cool. So some of you guys, it's worth streaming on at least TikTok. Like TikTok is great for local business. Please respond. Oh, I can't see the comment. Are you hiring part-time? Unfortunately not right now. Oh, what's a fog spray for? It's just for parties. So if you super chat or donate on YouTube, then these go off as a thank you. Flip camera. Oh yeah, I forgot to mirror it. TikTok always starts it backwards. So this is the way the shop actually looks. No TikTok gifts? No, we do it for TikTok gifts as well. They're hard to keep track of though. All the TikTok stuff happens over there. Are you hiring part-time? No, unfortunately. How do you have your sprayer hooked up? So this was kind of a fun project that we did. I got some Cox hose reels, and it came with a 1/4-inch airline tube. The most important thing is to have brass fittings on the side. So a lot of airlines are gonna have 5/8 or 3/8. I think they'll have like 3/8. But I like the 1/4-inch hose. So you could get a 3/8 adapter here and go down a 1/4-inch. But if you get a hose reel, then it just goes straight through, comes out here, hooks up there, goes down, and then goes straight to the keg. So it's a really, really simple setup. But I've got 2 dip tubes in my keg. So one goes to that one goes to the other one. It didn't work. What didn't work? The fog? Here, I'll do it. It should work. Everything's connected, so it should work. It's over, it's not for like the roses though. It's like over 200 because people then do flowers and then it's nonstop and then I can't breathe anymore. Thanks for the gift though. What hose reels are those? These are Cox hose reels. There are like even like a Viver one for like $60. I was really interested in trying that out. I like specifically looked for something that already had 1/4-inch hookups, but you could easily go from a 3/8 hookup with an NPT. It's a standard fitting. You go from 3/8 to 1/4-inch, and then just look for one, like any similar reel that has a brass fitting on the side. So I put Flexilla tubing, so we replaced the 1/4-inch airline and replaced it with Flexilla hoses, and then we also have Flexilla cord reels. The only thing I don't like about this setup is that these are the same color, which I did intentionally, but then when they're laying on the floor, it gets a little confusing and they get all tangled up. The better setup would be to do ceiling mounted ones, but we usually have like a big canopy diffuser up here. So once we redo our lighting, we'll do that. How much are you charging for a full window tint? Depends on the film and depends on what we're like what vehicle that we're tinting. But for example, back windows or like everything the sides and the rear and the front windshield. So everything with the windshield is going to start at $450. I sent the hat and it didn't. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I don't know. Sometimes they just don't work. So let me close this and I'll reopen it. They worked perfectly last time. Whenever we got a bunch of layers to all of this. So sometimes things just don't work. Thank you for the hat though. I really appreciate that. We'll make it go off, Nicholas. Still working on some, hey, there we go. Thank you, I really appreciate it. We're still working on some bugs, but some of it is just like, sometimes they work and then sometimes they don't. You have lots of tech. Yep. That kind of sums me up as a person. Where's your shop? My shop's in Sterling Heights. How many cars do you usually work on every day? Depends on the day. But with these live streams, we actually try and just set one nice car per day so we can use it for videos and examples and stuff like that. And when things get busier, then we'll have those being tinted in the background. This week, honestly, has been slower. Where did you get the floors? These are from Race Deck. Oh yeah, I'm gonna pull this car out. So let's go look at it outside. Do you drive a Tesla if you like tech so much? Hey, look at that. It worked. Okay, so I I do drive a Tesla, but it's not because of the tech. I drive a Tesla because it was the best lease deal that I could find. Before that, I had a Blazer, and then when I was looking to renew my lease on something else, I didn't want to just jump into Blazer, and everything else was like $3,000 down and $600, $700, $800 a month. The Tesla was like $1,000 down, and it's under $500 a month. It was the cheapest thing that I could find. But it's also great because it's sitting right out here too. So this thing right here, that's mine. But I'm gonna pull this out and then we can look at the windshield really quick outside. I think they're waiting on picking it up. I'm rambling at this point. So we're gonna start this up and make sure it works. that's good. That's always a good sign. It says the Cybertruck is great for attention. I think it's a little I mean, it still has that wow factor, kind of like the Model 3 and like the Model X or S. Like anytime somebody saw a Tesla, like people were turning heads because they were just so unique and new. And Cybertruck is the latest. Turn down the volume so I don't get demonetized. Oh, if there's any order problems through us, call us. Or shoot us an email. We'll take care of it. For sure. And that's what she looks like. So that's 50. So whatever you had on the sides, and then that's the 50 on it, which honestly makes it look, on an overcast day, plenty dark for it. Cool. I hope our headphones is connected. I wonder if our mic still works. Does the mic still work? Hey, it does.
Looks good. No way I missed it.
Damn, that's highly illegal in England. The owner, you want to rev it? They can be fun. I tend to... I baby them as much as possible. All right. Well, they're actually waiting outside to pick it up. So I'm going to hop off here. But thanks for tuning in. We'll have a video on YouTube that's going to go over the windshield again. So if you missed any part of cleaning and the tools that you need, video would be posted. This whole live stream will be posted on YouTube. So TikTok, don't ban me.
30% front tint okay with the police.
Is 30% okay with the police? You have to ask the police. Look up your state laws.